I hope I could wed her, I whispered. The alien princess turned and said, I accept. Liam had always dreamed of the impossible. He was a soldier, a simple officer in a small human colony on a distant planet. The Zyrakians, a peaceful and advanced alien race, had always kept their distance from humans, but when the royal family of Zyrak arrived on his world for a diplomatic mission, Liam's life would change forever. It wasn't just any visit. This was the most important one in decades. Princess Thalassa, the young heir to the Zyrakian throne, had come with her entourage. They were there to foster peace between their people and the humans. The colony had always hoped for peaceful relations, but no one could ever have predicted how much this visit would affect one man's life. Liam first laid eyes on her at a formal banquet held in honor of the royal family. He was just one of many soldiers assigned to the event, standing by the doors and making sure everything went smoothly. As soon as he saw Thalassa, his heart skipped a beat. She was beautiful, an elegance unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like the surface of a calm sea, and her long silver hair fell like a waterfall around her shoulders. She wasn't just beautiful in the way most people would describe a princess. She carried herself with a quiet strength that commanded respect. There was something in her eyes, too, a sense of deep knowledge, as if she had seen and experienced more than most would in their entire lives. Liam stood near the edge of the grand hall, his eyes following her as she moved through the room. He could feel his heart racing. He wasn't supposed to be staring at her. She was royalty, and he was a nobody, just another soldier among hundreds. But there was something about her presence that made him feel alive, as if she was the spark in a world that had grown too dull. The night wore on with speeches and formalities, but Liam barely noticed. He couldn't take his eyes off Thalassa. He watched as she spoke with dignitaries, always polite, always composed, but there was something else in her demeanor. She wasn't happy. It was clear from her expression that she wasn't enjoying the event. Liam's heart sank a little at the thought. He didn't know why, but he wanted to talk to her, to ask her about her life, to know what weighed on her mind. The evening was almost over when something unexpected happened. The music shifted and the guests began to mingle. The royal family stood together, talking amongst themselves, and for a brief moment, Thalassa broke away from the group, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. It was then that their eyes met. For a split second, Liam thought he had imagined it. He quickly looked away, but to his surprise, Thalassa had walked over to him. "Good evening, officer," she said, her voice soft yet commanding. Liam froze, unsure of how to respond. His heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't believe she was speaking to him, and his words escaped him. "Is everything going well here?" Thalassa continued, her eyes studying him. Liam cleared his throat, trying to find his voice. "Yes, Your Highness, everything is in order." She smiled, a small but genuine smile that made his knees weak. "I'm glad to hear that. It's rare to see such a peaceful gathering. It's nice to be among people who don't treat us like strangers." Liam was surprised by her words. He had always assumed the Zyrakians were far above the humans, that they viewed them as nothing more than lesser beings. But here she was, speaking so openly to him, a simple officer in the crowd. "Of course, Your Highness. You and your people are always welcome here," Liam managed to say, his words coming out a little more awkwardly than he intended. Thalassa's smile faded, and she looked around the room as if searching for something. Liam followed her gaze but saw nothing out of the ordinary. "You don't have to call me Your Highness," she said quietly, almost as if to herself. "It feels too distant, too formal." Liam's heart skipped a beat. He had never heard of a royal princess speaking like that. He felt an overwhelming urge to respond, but he had no idea what to say. Instead, he stood there silently, feeling the weight of the moment. The music played softly in the background, but for him, everything else seemed to fade away. Thalassa turned her gaze back to him. "I wish I could experience life as you do, to be free of expectations, free of titles. I wonder what it would be like, to be able to speak to anyone without them bowing or treating me like I'm some kind of untouchable figure." Liam was stunned. He had never considered that side of royal life. To him, royalty was about power, about admiration, about being above everyone else. But here she was, speaking of freedom, something that he in his simple life took for granted. "I imagine it must be difficult," Liam said, his voice sincere. "But you're doing great things, you're bringing peace, and that's worth everything." Thalassa looked at him thoughtfully, as if considering his words carefully. "Peace, yes, but at what cost?" Liam didn't know how to answer. He had no idea what it was like to be the heir to an entire empire, to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. But he could see, in her eyes, the burden she carried, one that she couldn't escape, no matter how much she might want to. Before he could respond, Thalassa excused herself, her attention pulled back to the rest of the room. "Thank you for your service, officer. It's been an interesting conversation." And with that, she turned and walked away. Liam stood there, frozen, watching her retreat into the crowd. His heart ached with longing, though he knew it was hopeless. She was a princess, and he was just a soldier. There was no way someone like him could ever be worthy of her. But in that moment, as he stood in the grand hall, staring after her, Liam whispered to himself, "I hope I could wed her." It was a quiet wish, a dream that could never come true, or so he thought. The days following the banquet felt like a dream to Liam. He couldn't stop thinking about the brief exchange with Princess Thalassa. She had spoken to him as if he were just another person, not a soldier. And her words, the ones she had shared about wanting freedom from her royal duties, had stayed with him. She was no longer just a princess in his mind. She was a woman with her own hopes and desires. Liam knew that he should forget about her. She was a Zyrakian princess, bound by duty and tradition, while he was just an ordinary human. He had no place in her world. Yet no matter how hard he tried to push the thought away, it remained. Every time he saw her, the hope that she might see him for who he truly was, a man, not a soldier, kept growing inside him. Weeks passed, and although they were both busy with their respective duties, Thalassa and Liam continued to cross paths at the occasional diplomatic meeting. She always seemed to seek him out, as if she couldn't quite escape the connection that had formed between them. They spoke briefly, exchanging pleasantries, but each time their conversations felt more meaningful, more personal. One afternoon, as Liam walked through the colony's central courtyard, he saw Thalassa standing near a fountain, looking lost in thought. She didn't seem to notice him at first, so he took a moment to watch her. The soft breeze caught her silver hair, and for a moment she looked like she was from another world. He had never seen her like this before, so unguarded, so real. She wasn't the distant princess he had seen in the grand halls or at official events. Here, in the quiet of the courtyard, she seemed like just another woman, someone with her own emotions and fears. He hesitated for a moment, unsure whether he should approach her. But before he could make up his mind, she turned, catching sight of him. Her expression softened when their eyes met. "Officer Liam," she said, her voice gentle but with a hint of something deeper, something that made his heart race. "It's nice to see you again." Liam swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. "Your Highness," he said, his voice a little more strained than he had intended. He quickly corrected himself, remembering her wish to be addressed more casually. "I mean Thalassa." She smiled slightly, her eyes twinkling. "Thalassa, yes, that sounds much better, doesn't it?" Liam nodded, unsure of what to say next. He wasn't sure what he had expected, but this wasn't it. There was an ease in her voice that made him feel like he wasn't just another soldier in her world, like he could be someone more. "Do you ever get tired of it?" he asked before he could stop himself. "The royal life, I mean. All the expectations, the constant pressure to live up to something that's not your choice?" Thalassa's smile faded, replaced by a thoughtful expression. She stepped closer to him, her voice quiet, almost as if she were speaking to herself. "All the time," she confessed. "There's always someone telling me what I should be, how I should act, but no one ever asks me what I want." Liam's heart ached as he listened to her words. He had known, deep down, that her life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. But hearing it from her, seeing the vulnerability in her eyes, made him realize just how much she had to sacrifice for the sake of duty. "I don't know what it's like," Liam said, his voice low, "but I can imagine how hard it must be. You're expected to be perfect, to always be on, no matter what. It's a heavy burden to carry." Thalassa looked at him, her gaze intense, searching his face for something. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched on, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like a shared understanding, a moment of connection that neither of them had anticipated. Finally, Thalassa broke the silence. "I think I'm tired of pretending," she said softly. "I've spent my entire life trying to please everyone around me. But I've never once been able to please myself." Liam's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words didn't come. Instead, he just stood there, his heart racing, wondering if there was a chance that she might feel the same way about him. "I'm sorry," Thalassa said suddenly, as if realizing how much she had said. "I shouldn't burden you with my troubles." Liam shook his head quickly. No, it's not a burden, he said. I want to listen, you don't have to keep it all inside. She gave him a soft smile, her eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and sadness. Thank you, Liam. Sometimes it feels like no one understands. The conversation shifted then, becoming less about their personal lives and more about the future, about the mission that had brought the Zyrakian royal family to the colony in the first place. They talked about peace, about their different cultures, and about the difficulties they both faced in bridging the gap between their peoples. But even as the conversation turned to more formal matters, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between them. There was a new closeness, a new understanding that neither of them could deny. After a while, they both grew quiet. Thalassa gazed out at the fountain, her expression distant once again. Liam felt the urge to say something, to break the silence, but the words escaped him. I hope you find what you're looking for, Thalassa, he said quietly, his voice sincere. You deserve to be happy. She looked at him, her eyes softening. I don't know if I will, she replied, but I appreciate your kindness, Liam. It means more than you know. The moment lingered, hanging in the air between them, and just as quickly as it had arrived, it seemed to fade. The peaceful silence that had settled over them was broken by the distant sound of footsteps. Thalassa's expression shifted, and Liam knew that their time together was coming to an end. It's getting late, Thalassa said, her voice a little more formal now. I should be getting back to the palace. Liam nodded. Of course, I'll walk you back. As they walked together through the courtyard, the quiet hum of the colony surrounded them. Liam couldn't help but feel that this moment, this brief, fleeting moment, had changed something inside him. He had come to admire Thalassa for her strength, her beauty, and her resolve. But now he saw her as something more, someone with dreams, with desires, someone who longed for more than the life that had been chosen for her. When they reached the palace gates, Thalassa turned to him, offering him a small smile. Thank you for walking with me, Liam. Any time, he replied softly, his heart still racing. With one final glance, she turned and walked through the gates, leaving Liam standing there, staring after her. He couldn't help but feel that, for a brief moment, he had been someone more to her than just a soldier. He wasn't sure where this connection would lead, but for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to believe in something beyond the impossible. Days passed, but Liam couldn't stop thinking about his encounters with Thalassa. Each time they spoke, each time she smiled at him, he felt a spark, a connection that he couldn't quite explain. He knew he was falling for her, but he also knew how dangerous that was. She was a princess, heir to a powerful empire, and he was just a soldier, a mere dot in her vast world. But his feelings for her had become undeniable, and it seemed that with every passing day, the distance between them was shrinking. Thalassa had been sending him small signals, subtle things, that made him believe she might feel something too. She'd smile when she saw him, seek him out during the events, and even make time to talk to him, despite her royal duties. It wasn't just politeness. It was something more, something real. It was as if she was trying to find a way to connect with him, someone who was unlike the rest of the people in her life, someone who saw her for who she truly was and not just as a princess. One afternoon, as Liam walked through the palace gardens, he saw Thalassa sitting alone on a bench, her head tilted back as she looked at the sky. The warm light of the setting sun bathed the courtyard in a golden glow, and for a moment the scene seemed peaceful, untouched by the tensions that lingered around them. She looked so at ease, so free in that moment, and it made Liam feel like an intruder in her world. But something inside him urged him to approach her. He hesitated for a moment, then walked toward the bench. Thalassa didn't hear him coming, and she didn't turn when he sat beside her. For a few moments they both sat in silence, the only sound the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. You've been avoiding me, Liam said softly, breaking the silence. Thalassa's gaze shifted, and she looked at him with a small, almost guilty smile. I didn't mean to, she said. It's just, everything has been so overwhelming. There's so much pressure, so many expectations. Sometimes I just need a moment to breathe, to be myself. Liam nodded, understanding more than she knew. He had seen the way she carried herself at official events, the weight of her position on her shoulders. He had seen her smile and speak to people, always playing the role expected of her, but he could tell it wasn't what she truly wanted. I get it, he said, his voice sincere. You don't have to pretend with me. I don't expect anything from you. Thalassa looked at him, and for a moment Liam swore he saw something in her eyes, something deep, something vulnerable. "I don't know why I feel so comfortable with you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've spent my entire life surrounded by people who want something from me, respect, loyalty, admiration. But with you, it's different. You see me for who I am, not what I'm supposed to be." Liam's heart swelled at her words. He had always tried to see her for who she truly was, not just as the princess, but as a person with her own thoughts, fears, and desires. He had never imagined that she would feel the same way about him. "I'm glad you feel that way," he said, his voice low. "I don't know if I'm the right person to make you feel free, but I'll always listen if you need someone to talk to." Thalassa smiled softly, and it was a smile that reached her eyes, making her look younger, more carefree. "Thank you, Liam," she said, her tone sincere. "I don't know how much longer I can keep living this life, playing the role that's been assigned to me. I wish I could just be ordinary." Liam could sense the sadness in her voice, the longing for something different, something simple. He wanted to reach out to tell her that there was a way out, that she didn't have to be trapped by her responsibilities. But he knew it wasn't that simple. Her people, her family, they all had expectations of her that she could never escape. "I don't know if it's possible to escape the life you were born into," he said softly, "but I do know that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to live a life that brings you peace, even if it's not what others expect." Thalassa looked at him, her eyes searching his face as if she was looking for something. For a moment, the weight of their conversation hung between them. The sun had almost set, casting the garden in a cool twilight. The peacefulness of the moment was in stark contrast to the storm brewing within Thalassa. She had never allowed herself to feel this way before, to speak so openly, and yet with Liam she felt like she could. "I don't know what to do," she confessed, her voice filled with uncertainty. "I've always done what I was told, followed the path that was laid out for me, but now I wonder if I've been living a lie." Liam reached out, placing his hand gently on hers, the touch tentative but sincere. "You're not alone in feeling lost. I may not have your kind of responsibility, but I've felt lost too. Sometimes it's about finding the courage to take a step forward, even when you do know where it will lead." Thalassa looked down at their hands, the weight of his words settling in her chest. She had always been so sure of her place in the world, so sure that she had to fulfill her destiny. But now, in this quiet garden, with Liam's hand resting beside hers, she began to wonder if there could be another way. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked, her voice soft. Liam thought for a moment. "I think about it all the time," he said, his voice thoughtful. "I don't know what it holds, but I know that I want to make it count, for me, for the people I care about." Thalassa nodded slowly, as if his words had struck a chord deep within her. "I want that too," she whispered, "but I don't know if I can have it. My future is not just mine to decide." Liam's heart ached for her. He could see the battle she was fighting, the internal struggle between the life she was expected to live and the one she longed for. He couldn't offer her a solution, couldn't promise that everything would work out. But in that moment, he knew he had to do something. "I don't know what the future holds for either of us," he said gently, "but I do know this. If you ever decide you want something different, something real, I'll be there." Thalassa looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and something more, something that made Liam's heart race. For the first time, she felt like she had a choice. "Thank you, Liam," she said softly. "That means more to me than you know." As the last light of the sun disappeared, the two of them sat in silence, their hands still resting together. Neither of them knew what the future would bring, but for the first time, they both felt like they might have a chance at a different life. A life where they could be free, where they could choose their own path. For now, though, they would savor the quiet moments, the moments where they didn't have to be anyone but themselves. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Liam couldn't remember the last time he had felt so conflicted. Each day spent with Thalassa was a blessing, yet it came with an overwhelming weight. The knowledge that no matter how much he cared for her, no matter how deep their bond had become, their worlds were still worlds apart. She was a princess, a figure of unimaginable power and responsibility, and he was just a soldier, a man who had no place in her life. But no matter how many times he tried to push the thoughts aside, they lingered. He had never been one to dream of impossible things, but in the quiet moments they shared, when their eyes met and their words flowed easily, he began to wonder if there was a way for them to be together. Thalassa, too, found herself torn. Every time they spoke, every time she felt his presence near her, it was as if the world made sense again. In his eyes, she wasn't just a princess. She wasn't the heir to an empire or a symbol of a powerful race. She was just Thalassa, a woman who wanted the same simple things as anyone else: a life of peace, a life of love, a life free from the chains of expectation. But she knew the truth. She couldn't just throw away everything she had been born to do. The Zyrakian Empire was waiting for her to take her place, to rule with strength and wisdom. She couldn't abandon that, could she? The days grew harder for both of them. Thalassa found herself thinking about Liam constantly, but the pressure of her royal duties never let her forget what was at stake. She couldn't afford to make a mistake. Every decision she made, every move she took was under scrutiny, and if she faltered, it wasn't just her future that was at risk. It was the future of her entire people. One evening, as she walked through the palace halls, she saw him again. Liam stood at the far end of the corridor, his back straight as he greeted another officer. His eyes, though, flicked toward her, and for that brief moment their gazes met. It was as if the rest of the world faded away and only the two of them existed. She knew she had to speak to him. The need to be near him, to share with him the confusion and fear she was carrying inside, had grown too strong. "Liam," she said softly, her voice quiet yet urgent. "Can we talk?" Liam turned, his face lighting up with a smile when he saw her. He gave a quick nod, stepping toward her. "Of course, Thalassa, what's on your mind?" They walked together through the palace garden, the cool evening air brushing against their skin. The soft rustle of the trees and the distant sounds of the colony filled the silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. They had been here before, standing side by side, talking about things that mattered, things that no one else seemed to understand. "I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this," Thalassa said, her voice trembling slightly. Pretending to be someone I'm not, pretending that everything is fine when it's not." Liam stopped walking, turning to face her. "Thalassa, you don't have to pretend with me, you've never had to." She looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and frustration. "It's not that simple," she said, her voice catching. "I'm the heir to the Zyrakian throne, I can't just abandon everything. If I do, I'll destroy the future of my people. I have responsibilities that come before my happiness, before my desires." Liam felt a pang in his chest at her words. He wanted so badly to tell her that she could have both, that she could find a way to be happy and still fulfill her duties. But he knew it wasn't that easy. The weight of her position was far greater than anything he could understand. "I don't want you to feel like you have to choose between your happiness and your responsibilities," Liam said, his voice soft yet firm. "But I also can't stand by and watch you suffer, Thalassa. You deserve more than a life of duty and expectation. You deserve to live a life that's yours." Her gaze dropped to the ground and she let out a long breath. "I've always been told that I was born for this, that I was destined to lead my people, and for a long time I believed it, but now I'm not so sure." Liam stepped closer to her, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone," he said softly. "If you ever decide you want something different, something for yourself, I'll be here. You don't have to carry the burden of your people's expectations all by yourself." Thalassa looked up at him, her eyes glistening in the soft light. "I don't know if I can leave it all behind," she whispered. "I don't know if I can walk away from everything I've been taught." Liam gave her a small, reassuring smile. "Then don't leave it all behind. Take a step, just one step. You don't have to make a grand decision right now. But when you're ready, I'll be here no matter what you choose." The sincerity in his words touched something deep within her. She had spent so long hiding behind the walls of duty, afraid to show the world her true self, afraid to admit her fears and doubts. But with Liam, it was different. He didn't expect her to be perfect. He didn't expect her to be the princess. He just wanted her to be Thalassa. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Liam reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just take one step at a time and you'll find your way." Thalassa closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. She felt a sense of peace wash over her, a feeling she hadn't known in a long time. For the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe. "I'm scared," she confessed, her voice barely audible. "I know," Liam replied, his tone filled with understanding. "But you're stronger than you think, Thalassa. You have the strength to choose your own path, no matter how difficult it may seem." She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze, and for the first time she felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps it was possible. Perhaps there was a way for her to find the balance between her duty and her own desires. But the reality of her position wasn't going to change overnight. The path ahead was still uncertain, and there were forces in her world that wouldn't allow her to simply walk away from her responsibilities. Yet, in this moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, a sense of freedom. Not because the chains of her destiny had been broken, but because she now knew that, no matter what happened, she wasn't alone. She had someone by her side who believed in her, someone who would stand with her, no matter where her journey took her. "I don't know what the future holds," Thalassa said, her voice steady now. "But I do know that I want to find my own way, not the way others have set for me, and I want you to be part of that journey." Liam's heart swelled with emotion. "I'll be with you every step of the way, Thalassa. Whatever you decide, I'm here." They stood there for a long while, the night air cool against their skin. In that quiet moment, neither of them knew what the future held, but they both knew one thing for certain. They would face it together, no matter the obstacles that lay ahead. The days that followed their conversation in the garden were filled with uncertainty, yet there was a sense of calm between them. Thalassa and Liam had both come to realize that their connection was something neither of them could ignore. But with that realization came the hard truth. There was no easy path forward. Thalassa had responsibilities to her people, a destiny that awaited her whether she wanted it or not. Liam, on the other hand, was a man from a world that had its own expectations, though they felt much smaller compared to the weight on her shoulders. Still, every time they spoke, every time their eyes met, Thalassa felt a little lighter. Liam made her feel like she could be herself, not just a princess, but a woman with dreams and desires of her own. The burden of her royal life seemed to lift, even if only for a moment. But when the moments ended, the weight came rushing back. The Zyrakian Empire was vast, and her people depended on her. It wasn't just about ruling, it was about keeping the balance, ensuring that peace endured. The people looked to her for guidance, and every decision she made rippled outward, affecting not only her own world but the human colonies as well. If she failed, it wouldn't just be her that suffered, it would be everyone. And yet, the thought of spending another day locked in a life she didn't choose gnawed at her. What was the point of peace if it came at the cost of her happiness? Could she really live the rest of her life knowing she had sacrificed her own dreams for the sake of an empire? Liam felt the weight of those thoughts every time he saw her. He knew that as much as she wanted to be free, the chains of her duty were too strong to break easily. But he also knew that if there was any chance for her to have a different life, a life where she could be happy, he would stand by her, no matter the cost. One evening, as the sun set and the cool breeze swept across the colony, Liam found himself waiting in the garden, where they had spoken so many times before. The flowers had begun to bloom, filling the air with a sweet fragrance, and the sky above was painted in shades of purple and gold. It was a beautiful sight, one that made him feel hopeful, even though the future seemed so uncertain. He didn't have to wait long before Thalassa appeared, walking toward him with her usual grace. She was dressed in a simple gown, the color a deep shade of blue that matched the evening sky. Her hair, usually styled in intricate designs, fell loosely around her shoulders. There was a quiet beauty in her simplicity that made his heart ache. "You're here," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I wasn't sure if I'd see you tonight." Liam returned her smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I thought we should talk," he said, his voice steady but with a hint of emotion beneath it. "About everything." Thalassa nodded, her expression serious now. "I've been thinking a lot," she began, her voice soft, "about what you said about finding my own way." Liam waited, his heart racing. He didn't know what she was going to say next, but he knew that whatever it was, it would change everything. "I don't know if I can walk away from it all," Thalassa continued, her gaze fixed on the ground. "I've been taught my whole life that my destiny is set in stone, that I was born to lead my people. But when I look at you, Liam, when I'm with you, I feel like I can be something more, something real. Not just a princess, but a woman with dreams, with a future of my own." Liam's heart leaped in his chest. This was what he had been hoping for, the moment when she would finally realize that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world alone. But even as the words left her lips, he knew there was still so much to consider. Walking away from her royal duties wasn't something that could be done lightly. There were consequences, not just for her, but for everyone she cared about. "You don't have to choose between your destiny and your happiness," Liam said, his voice firm. I believe you can have both. It won't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. Thalassa met his gaze, her eyes filled with uncertainty. But what if I can't? What if my people need me more than I need myself? Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his. The warmth of her skin sent a rush of emotion through him. Thalassa, you can't live for others forever. You deserve to live for yourself too, and if you ever need to step away, if you need to find your own path, I'll be here. Thalassa looked at him, her gaze softening. She had always known that Liam cared for her, but hearing him speak so plainly, so confidently, made her realize just how much she had come to rely on him. She had spent so long feeling trapped by her royal duties, by the weight of her position. But with him, she felt like she could breathe. I don't know if I can leave everything behind, she whispered, her voice filled with doubt. I don't know if I can turn my back on my people. You don't have to turn your back on them, Liam said gently. But you don't have to carry it all alone either. There's a way for you to be who you are and still do what you're meant to do. Thalassa took a deep breath, her mind racing. She had spent so long questioning her future, wondering if there was a way for her to be free without abandoning her responsibilities. But now, standing here with Liam, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. Maybe there was a way. Maybe, just maybe, she could have the life she wanted without giving up everything. I'll think about it, she said softly, her voice filled with a new sense of resolve. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I need to make my own decisions. For once, I need to choose what's right for me. Liam smiled, his heart lifting. That's all I can ask for. For the rest of the evening, they sat together in the garden, talking about everything and nothing. They didn't have all the answers, and they didn't know what the future would bring. But for the first time in a long time, Thalassa felt like she was taking control of her own life. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be challenges ahead, but she knew that with Liam by her side, she could face whatever came her way. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Thalassa felt a sense of hope she hadn't known in years. She didn't have to follow the path that had been set for her. She could carve out her own destiny one step at a time, and no matter what happened, she knew she wouldn't have to do it alone. I'm ready, she said quietly, her voice steady. I'm ready to find my own way. Liam squeezed her hand, his heart swelling with pride. Then let's do it, Thalassa. Let's find that way together. And as the night wrapped around them, they both knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, side by side, ready for whatever came next.